Hello, everyone. This is Paul. I am your host, and you are listening to season 3, episode 9 of the Generation Latino podcast. Guys, I cannot believe we're like almost halfway through with season 3. Well, first of all, I can't even believe that we're on a season 3. I say this all the time, but when I first started this passion project of mine, I never thought that I would be 3 seasons in interviewing phenomenal people, meeting new people, learning a lot about myself, learning a lot about other people. But before I get started, I just want to kind of give a shout out and a thank you to people who have listened from all across the world. I went through my analytics and whatnot. And for those of you who are in Japan, the United Kingdom, Russia, Poland, Ireland, Brazil, India, Canada, France, Australia, Iran. Thank you so much. I mean, truly, thank you so much. Those are just a couple of places that I were kind of like, wow, people are listening from all over the place. Truly, thank you. And it means so much to me that you have found my podcast, that you have, related to an episode. And it's so nice to hear from people who are just listening and getting something from it, from not just me, but from the guests that I have. So I know this season I've had a couple guests on, and last episode I was on the radio, and I kind of wanted to highlight that and have y'all listen to it. It was a very popular episode too, talking about love and romance. But honestly, I just want to first I just want to say thank you for listening and supporting. And it truly means so much to me that you are just connecting. And if you can share this with somebody, I'm on TikTok. You can follow me at Generation Latino Podcast on Instagram. I think I'm done though. I said this last time, but I really am going to get rid of my Instagram. It's just not where it's at for me, at least in what I want for this podcast. So I'm going to stick to TikTok and YouTube Shorts. So you can follow me on YouTube Shorts at Generation Latino Podcast. I think I'm going to focus on those two platforms. There's just a lot more traffic, there's a lot more interaction and engagement, and nothing wrong with Instagram, but for me, it's just too slow for me personally. Nothing wrong if that's your jam. It's just not for me. There's not much engagement. It's too slow and whatnot. But anyways, thank you for tuning in. I truly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. We are just started spring, and over here in Texas, it's so crazy how this weather is. Like right now, it's hot. A couple of days ago, it was cold. So, anyways, the weather has been crazy, but I'm so excited for spring. I'm so excited for the summer weather and whatnot. I'm also going to be doing a CrossFit competition, so I'm excited about that. So, I'm just really pushing my goals. I officially start law school. I meet with my academic advisor actually later on today. So, later on today, I'm gonna meet with them at 4 p.m. So I'm excited. We're just gonna lock everything down, what my schedule will look like. So I am just really making 2026 intentional. I want to make sure that I'm knocking everything on my checklist and doing everything, being proactive. Work has been busy, life, gym, but guys, I'm telling you, it's doable. You can do it. You can conquer it. Create a schedule for yourself. Just don't burn yourself out. But if you haven't, follow me on Spotify. So you can follow me on Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. If you can, subscribe on those platforms. So I know the last couple episodes have been kind of lax and more, fun and whatnot, talking about dating. But today, I'm really going to talk about a topic that hits home for me. It's a topic that I have kind of brushed on, but I haven't really talked about. And it's it's growing up without my father. You know, I grew up without my biological father in my life, and I know there's millions of people, millions of children out there in this country and across the world that didn't have their biological father in their life. And today we're going to talk about that. What happens when a child grows up without a father? How does that shape the way they see love, trust, and relationships later in life. So today we're going to really talk about the real impact of growing up fatherless. Something, like I said, millions of people experience, but not enough people talk about. So today we're going to talk about it, and it may trigger some things and it may kind of bring up some trauma. But again, we're here together. We're here to connect, and we're here just to enjoy each other's company. So I hope you enjoy this episode, The Impact of a Missing Father. All right, guys. So the impact of a missing father. I really struggled in my early childhood life with not having my biological father in my life. And I know I'm not the only one. I know a lot of us experience not having a father in their life. And for me, I blamed a lot of other people. At one point I blamed my mom, or I blamed, you know, everyone else but the actual person who was not in my life. And you experience that, you experience a lot of different emotions when you don't have a father. And even if the father is a good person, they're just not a good father. So as a child, I grew up with a single mom, and she really was doing her best to make everything happen. And what I noticed growing up was that I didn't really have many men in my life in general. I had my older brother, who I am so thankful for, who was that figure for me. And to this day, I thank him so much because he really allowed me to express myself, because I was not only fatherless, I was queer and I was gay. And I knew at a very early age that I was different and that I was gay. So imagine my psyche thinking, well, I not only don't have my biological father in my life, but I'm also different. I like guys and I like more feminine things, or I like doing both feminine and masculine things. So there was a lot of that going on in my brain as a child. But I'm so thankful that my mom allowed me to express that part of myself. And also, growing up with a straight older brother who was 8 years older than me, he didn't judge me. He just allowed me to be who I wanted to be. And I've said this before, but I don't think I would be who I am today if my older brother was not that father figure in my life. There was a Father's Day a couple years back, and I wrote him this very lengthy card, and I basically thanked him for being that father that I didn't have. And he still to this day is that for me. But the moments when I felt the absence of my father was during times in school, like when I had friends whose fathers would pick them up. I had friends who were like, "Oh, I'm gonna go with my dad," and I felt it during sports as well. Like I remember one time in PE class, like they were teaching like baseball and football, and I remember hearing a lot of the boys around me talking about that they went to go play catch with their dad, and they went to go play football and whatnot, or go fishing, and I would kind of feel bad because I did not have that growing up with my biological father. And it made me feel like, what did I do wrong? Like, why doesn't he want to be in my life? Like, what did I do wrong? And I'm young. I'm like 7, 8 years old. And with that being said, I did have my stepfather who came into my life. With that being said, I did have my stepfather come into my life when I was 8 years old. And to this day, I call him my dad. But it was hard for me to navigate those emotions, right? But I was able to really have my stepfather help me figure out what a man looks like. What does a provider look like? Because when you don't have your father in your life, your biological father, that's hard. And I'm going to keep saying this, but unless you have experienced not having your biological father in your life, you will not understand. You won't. But I am very thankful for my brother and my stepdad. So growing up, like I said, it was just my mom and the kids, my mom and her kids. And I loved that it was that because that's what created such a close family. I mean, my siblings and I are extremely close, but I give all that credit to my mom. There's nothing that my siblings would not do for me and that I wouldn't do for them. Like nothing. And I am so thankful and grateful for that. So that was my childhood. And I realized that I was gonna be part of a blended family, right? Like my stepdad came in and he had kids and then, my mom had her kids. So it was just a blended family, which is why I come from a very like judgment-free zone because that's just how we grew up. So what I kind of want to talk about, you know, right now is like the emotional impact on children, like the psychological and emotional effects. And I think the biggest one is identity and self-worth, which I briefly touched on. But when you don't have your biological father in your life, you question you question your last name, you question what did I do wrong, your self-worth, and you can't help but feel abandoned and rejected. And I know for me, a lot of my anger that I had growing up, I took it out on my mom. And even to this day, I do that. And I have to check myself sometimes because I feel like the anger that I had towards my biological father should go to him. But because my mom's there, she has to get the brunt of it. And I have to catch myself. And of course, I apologize when I feel bad. But it's just something that I still work on to this day. And that's just me being very vulnerable with you all today. And I don't suffer from this one at all, but it's something that I know a lot of children do and a lot of women who don't have their not just biological father, but a father figure is looking for validation. One thing that I grew up knowing was my worth. I always knew my worth. I always knew that I was worth value and what I brought to the table. But I know a lot of other people, specifically a lot of women in my life, who didn't really have the best father figure in their life are constantly looking for validation from men. And because of that, they end up in horrible relationships. They end up being either abused, taken advantage of, and it is something that I feel like happens quite often. And that's the emotional impact that that you take on with you as an adult. When the father isn't present, kids often grow up asking questions like, was I not good enough? Why wasn't I worth staying for? And it's hard. It is super, super hard. And I think oftentimes people don't talk about what it's like growing up fatherless, the impact that it makes, the impact that it has on you. So as you become an adult, right? And I'm going to do a disclaimer. I am not a professional in the field of mental health or whatnot. I am just an individual who has experienced this specific topic. So just want to let you know that. A major issue that comes up when you grow up without a biological father in your life is how it shows up in adult life. We're going to talk about patterns, right? The first one being trust issues. I have trust issues. I do. And I won't say that it just came from not growing up with my biological father. It came from a lot of factors, but that is a major factor, right? You realize, like, I can't even trust the man that gave birth to me. How am I going to trust anyone else? But you learn how to do that. You learn how to navigate life and you learn how to start trusting people. And also, you realize that not everyone is out to get you. They're not. Another pattern is fear of abandonment. You think like, okay, again, if my biological father can give up on me and give me up and not care, then who else won't do that? You build up these emotional walls. I know I had before. I felt like, well, fuck you then. If you don't want to be in my life, well then fuck you. And then also too, one that I've really, really worked on and I'm continuing to do is as someone who has grown up fatherless, as an adult, you have difficulty expressing vulnerability. You do because you've had to protect your emotions as a child. Some people grow up determined to be a parent they never had. And I know for me, I'm not a parent, and I know a big factor of me not wanting kids has to be the fact that my father was not in my life. I'm gonna be honest. That's that's a huge factor in that. But I know that if I were ever a father, I would never want to be the father that I had. I would never do that. I can't even treat my dog the way that I see some fathers treat their kids. It's crazy to me how someone can create you and abandon you. That is, I still can't wrap my head around that because for me, I'm a dog dad, and by no means am I comparing my dog to a child, but even as a dog dad, like I get sad just thinking about the fact that my dog is without me, knowing that he needs me and he yearns for me. And I can't even imagine. One time I was driving and I was thinking about my dog, and then I thought about my biological father, and I thought, wow, like, do I ever cross his mind? Like, at all? Do I ever cross his mind? This man created me. I'm sure I look like him, but do I ever cross your mind? You know, and I'm sure there's a lot of you out there too who may have not had the best father figure in their life or an absent father completely. And you think like, how can you act this way? But anyways, I think too, a big problem with not having a father in your life is the impact of romantic relationships. And I see this all the time. Like a lot of people, for those who do have their father and say it's like not the best relationship, a lot of the people that I've seen, friends, family members, like they are literally dating someone similar to their father, which is so interesting to me. But then again, that's all you know. Growing up, that is all you know. So, how in the world are you going to be able to know something else if that's what you grew up knowing? So, I understand. I try not to be too hard on my girlfriends when I'm like, girl, you're dating someone like your dad. Like, you're dating someone who is taking advantage of you, abusing you. Just, I mean, the list is going on and on and on. But I get it. I get it. And growing up without a father, growing up without my biological father, let me correct that, because I give again plenty of credit to my stepfather and my brother for being those mentors to me. I do believe that everyone needs a father figure in their life to help them. I think it helps a lot. So again, I think there's a lot of things, a lot of trauma that comes with not having your father in your life, but I think there's a lot of resources to help you break the cycle. And it wasn't until I was older that I realized that there were tools, there were things that I could work on to help me not be so angry, help me not be so bitter towards my biological father. And what can I do for myself to move on? And for me, the biggest one was therapy and self awareness. I had to really tell myself that I could not change what has been done. Although in my mind, I sometimes would create this fantasy world that my father would call me one day and tell me, "Hey, son, I made a mistake. Can we have dinner?" And we talk, and I hug him and he hugs me. Like, I created this fantasy in my head because I so badly wanted that, and I had to give that hope up and that dream up. Not because I didn't want that, but I needed to stop hoping that that would happen because what that was creating was just this false sense of reality that, hey, Paul, that is probably not going to happen. And you're going to be waiting on forever. So I had to surrender that. I had to surrender what my fantasy was and what my daydream would be like. And it did hurt, but that was me being self aware. That was me doing work on myself and realizing what I could change. And also, too, what helped me kind of get through it was having mentors and role models in my life. I am surrounded by a lot of good mentors in my life and very loving individuals, and that has helped me immensely. The next one is building healthy relationships. I grew up watching, and I've said this before, domestic violence. I grew up with seeing things that were not the best or the healthiest. But, as an adult, I'm able to create a healthy life, a healthy lifestyle, not just physically, but mentally, everything around me. I'm very much centered on being healthy, feeling healthy, looking healthy from the inside and out. And yeah, I think that if you're listening and you're experienced, your father not being in your life, biological father, or even having a father, but they didn't treat you well and it was not the best relationship, you can overcome that cycle. But you really have to realize that you cannot change what's been done. I think for the longest time, I was trying to make up excuses for why my biological father didn't want to be in my life. And I could see the best therapists, the best doctors, the best this, the best that. I mean, you can psychoanalyze all of this. But at the end of the day, my biological father was not in my life because he did not want to be in my life. It is that simple. And if you're listening out there, your father is not in your life because he does not want to be in your life. I'm sorry. It's that simple. You can argue, you can disagree. It's that simple. Someone treats you like shit because they want to treat you like shit. You can argue all you want about it. That's how simple it is. And you allowing them to do that is on you. But again, if you're listening, please know that it's not easy growing up fatherless, but you can survive it and you can become a better human, a better person. And I know this was a very heavy, heavy topic today, but it's something that I wanted to talk about because I want you to know I work with kids. And I'm a hell of a good mentor and to these kids that I work with. And I show them the love that I didn't have from my biological father. I give them the wisdom, the knowledge, the grace, the empathy. You ask anyone who works with me, I want the youth that I work with, whether you're 5 years old or you're 17, 18 years old, I want you to know what it's like to have a powerful male figure in your life. And there's not one kid that crosses my path that I don't let them know you're worthy, you're seen, you're heard, because at the end of the day, that's what your father should make you feel like. So now I, as a grown man in my 30s, thriving, living, being the best version of myself. And I just want you listening to know that you don't have to be defined by a father who was not present in your life. You don't have to be defined by a sperm donor. You don't have to be defined by someone who does not want to be in your life or treat you well. Remember that. Remember that. Please, if your father does not want to be in your life, let them not be in your life. If they want to treat you badly and say horrible things to you and belittle you, you don't need them in your life. Create a world around you that allows you to be the best version of yourself, because that's what I'm doing right now. The people in my life at this moment in my 30s is love, it's encouragement, it's motivation, it's full of life and joy. You can do that. You can be abandoned as a child and still grow up to create the life you want. I'm telling you that because that's what I'm doing right now. Anyways, I want to thank you so very much for listening. I love you all very much. And again, if this episode has resonated with you, please share it. Thank you. And I will see you on the next episode.